Dawn with your hosts, Jimmy Thompson and Donato Bucci. They're covering the most current issues in sports from the 305 to the 412 and all the way to the West Coast. You can follow them on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at JT and the Dawn or email them at jtandthedawn@gmail.com. Now take it away, guys.
Give them a shot to do what?
Welcome to the next episode of JT and the Dawn, presented by Give Us a Shot Network. I am the Dawn, Donato Bucci, and remember to please subscribe to us wherever you find all of your other favorite podcasts, and remember to leave us a 5-star review, and remember to also subscribe to the Give Us a Shot Network YouTube channel. Thank you to Nicole Thompson for the wonderful introduction, as always, and to our guy Mike Regina with the JT and the Dawn pump up music. Without any further ado, let me welcome in everyone's favorite, JT, Jimmy Thompson. How you feeling today?
Okay. I mean, I feel like this is like jury duty at this point. I got to deal with you maybe once a week now. So it's like pulling teeth. So let's just get it over with.
You got to show up. You got to do your job.
I don't have to show up for nothing. Like, I think we need to go back and look at that contract, because I don't remember it saying that I had to deal with you this much.
You just said it's
for 7 days.
You just said it's like jury duty. So jury duty, you got to show up. You got to show up.
People don't show up for jury duty. I think I'm about to start doing that.
Wow. Breaking the law. Don't do that, folks. Don't do that.
I know you want to talk about your guy since he's still in the playoffs, but you ready to get started?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so NBA playoffs, man, full swing. Conference finals are underway. But before we give our predictions, let's review some of the bigger stories from the last round. Let's start with NBA Fast Break. Don will get mad if I don't explain it the way he wrote it. So I'm going to say we will ask a question, then provide multiple answers to the question, and we will pick the answer that we think fits best and why. Is that okay? Is that a good enough explanation for you?
I had to write it in the script. If not, you wouldn't explain it. You never know who's watching for the first time. You got to explain what it is.
So now that we got the rules down right, let's start with the first one. Brighter future, the Knicks or the Oklahoma City Thunder?
I think this is an easy answer here. It's the Thunder. Oklahoma City's the youngest team ever to win an NBA playoff series, ever. And they're the second youngest in the league this year at 24.12 years on opening day. So you now have basically, JT, as we saw at the end of that series against Dallas, where Josh Giddey, he's a bench guy now. You have a guy like that is essentially a sixth man. He might be my prediction next year in the NBA preview show for sixth man of the year.
I mean, it's probably going to be on a team where he can play, a bigger role, but
maybe. But I mean, I think contract-wise, he's still locked up. Then you've got Wiggins, you've got Jalen Williams, Jaylin, coming off the bench too. And then you have that guy, Jalen Williams, your guy,
Oh yeah, my guy who I went out on a limb and predicted he win Rookie of the Year, but he fell just a hair short.
Which he didn't, because I picked
he had an amazing rookie year.
I picked Paolo Banchero, and he won. And then you look at the rookie contracts; they're basically all under rookie contracts. SGA, Shea, he doesn't become really a free agent. He won't be able to get that supermax until 2025. So you have another year of him under the smaller contract. You have the coach of the year on that team. I'll let you go, but there's some points with the Knicks that concern me, and I won't get into that. But that's why it's the Thunder without even talking about the Knicks.
I hate that we're starting off agreeing right off the bat. I really thought this show was going to have fireworks, but it's true. It's the Thunder for everything you said. And if we're really looking at their team and why we're picking them, it's their big three. They're all 25 and under, and two of those guys still have an enormous amount of room to grow as players. Like Chet's going to get better. My guy Jalen's going to get better. And Shea is already, can we say he's a top 6 player in the league? And he's also still getting better. For the Knicks, if you're not going to say it, I'm going to say it. I love Brunson, but I think we're seeing the ceiling. Like, this is what he's going to be. And as for the rest of those Knicks guys, like Josh Hart, your guy DiVincenzo, I think they kind of played over their heads a little bit this year, and it felt more like an outlier situation. Like, the kicker is, for me, is that, and also the Thunder big three, they also have like all NBA defensive potential too. Like, Chet could be a shot block leader in the league. Jalen Williams is a very good defender. Shea, we already know he's very good on defense. Like, those guys are both going to grow on offense and defense going forward. It's got to be the Thunder.
Why is DiVincenzo my guy? Why is it just presumed?
No, you never shut up about him.
We know. Wait,
about him or Archie Diacono. Those are the only two players
that's not true.
Buy jerseys for.
That is not true. I don't have a jersey of either one of those guys. You know, Brunson's my guy. Brunson is my guy. Had him in fantasy. Been telling you he's the best free agent signing in the last decade.
Yeah, you should just get that shit on a t-shirt. You're gonna keep saying that until the end of time. Nobody's running with that storyline.
But JT, I disagree with what you said about Brunson. Even if this is his ceiling,
I didn't say it was a bad thing. But
no.
What I meant was, if this is his ceiling, then
it's good enough.
How far they can get.
No, they can go further. If this is his ceiling, that's a great thing. The dude had like 4 games in a row of 40 plus. That's a hell of a ceiling. Give anybody that ceiling. This is the difference. You got to be healthy. That team wasn't healthy. So we don't know what they can fully do with Brunson.
So you changing your mind? Because you could just easily say, okay, if the Knicks are healthy, then they got the brighter future.
But this is why I won't say it is. Because we know what
That's why you won't say it.
No, not about Brunson. I'm not wrong. The thing with the Knicks is we can't trust that organization all the time. Now, they've done better things, but they're over the cap going into this offseason. OG's a free agent.
You don't care about cap, bro.
Hartenstein he has early bird rights, so it means you can limit what you can offer him. And they don't know what they're going to be able to do with Randall. That team right now is really in flux if they don't bring back OG. If they can't bring back OG, JT, it's over for them. They're going to have to rebuild around Brunson again. So that's why I'm not as high on their future as I am with Oklahoma City.
All right. Same question. Brighter future, Anthony Edwards or our guy, Shea Gilgeous?
Well, our guy. Well, no. Ant is my guy. I had him in fantasy. All right. Listen, this is such a JT type.
You do this shit all the time. Anybody's like the cool new trendy player, he's like, oh, that's my guy. I saw him first. Like, no, you did. Like, we all loved
Anthony Edwards before. I did, but it's okay.
All right,
listen,
so
this is such a JT type question. Like, the answer is both. How can you possibly pick who has the brighter future? Like, you can't just pick one. I don't know how you do it in this instance. Like, both have really bright futures if they stay healthy.
I didn't ask this question to say like Ant is trash. I'm just asking which one has the brighter future. One will be better than the other. You know that. That's how this works.
Maybe. Listen, if you're going to twist my arm and I have to answer one way or another, I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards because...
Are you taking Anthony Edwards ahead of Shea in fantasy?
Yes, because fantasy is different. Let's not get confused.
Oh, it's different now?
Fantasy is different. Fantasy is different.
Whatever you say.
But Anthony Edwards is only 22. Shea is 26. Now, Shea, you talk about ceilings. No, he turns 26. Sorry, he turns 26 this summer. So he's almost 4 years older than Ant. And to be honest, like with what you said with Brunson, are we seeing Shea's ceiling? We may be seeing it. And that's fine if it is. All I'm saying is Ant if he's already playing at such a high level that if his ceiling is even higher right now, I mean, Anthony Edwards, I don't know where that ceiling could be then. This is the difference. His defense, and he has become the face of Minnesota, of that team. It's no longer Cat's team. For a dude to do that at 22, that's unbelievable. And this is the other
you mean
reason.
For a guy that was the number 1 overall pick to come into the league, play well, live up to expectations?
He was supposed to.
Who would have thought that would have ever happened?
He was supposed to play second fiddle to Cat, and he's taking it over.
He was the number 1 overall pick. They picked him with the expectation that he would be a freaking superstar. Like, why are we acting like this is Josh Hart? Like, this is Anthony Edwards. He's supposed to be a generational type player.
It's not your turn to go yet. But
please, can you hurry this up? Because you just saying the same stuff.
You keep interrupting. It was supposed to be Cat's team, but this is the difference. His on-court presence, his athleticism, it's going to become second to none in this league, maybe by next year, if not in 2 or 3 years. So that's why I would say if I had to pick, I'm going to go with Ant.
I mean, I'm not shitting on Ant at all. Like, he's obviously a phenomenal player. And I don't think you watched him a lot this year, because I think why I'm not picking him is this will obviously get better. There's still a lot of inefficient areas of his game it's like,
of course,
a lot of it's based on volume right now, but he can get better. And he's a superstar. You said
brighter future, not brighter right future, now.
Yeah. I think it's Shea. And because he's already played at an MVP level the past 2 seasons. And to me, I feel why I think it's also his future is brighter is because his game is basically on cruise control, and it's not reliant on insane athleticism. Like, Anthony Edwards could have an injury or wear and tear, just not be the same guy in 5 years from now, where I think 10 years from now, like, Shea could be playing like this at 33. Like, it's like Luka Doncic. You can't speed him up. It's not based on athleticism. It's just based on all-around skill. So that's why I'm picking him as the brighter future. But, I mean, I think Anthony Edwards is going to be a superstar too.
All right. So, bigger collapse, the New York Knicks or the Denver Nuggets?
This is the easy answer too. I mean, let's be real. The Knicks just ran out of healthy bodies. Like, thank you, Tom Thibodeau. That's just what he does. He runs everybody into the ground. But it's the Nuggets, man. They have the MVP and the best player in the league, right? We agree it's Jokic. And essentially, KCP, your guy, Aaron Gordon, and Michael Porter Jr., who's also your guy, they just were invisible this entire series. Like, everybody in the media just automatically put the Nuggets in the finals from the jump, no matter what they showed actually in the game within the playoffs. And only for the Wolves to blow them out Game 6, and the Wolves to have I think one of the greatest Game 7 comebacks in history. The Nuggets were up by 20 late in the third quarter?
About midway.
Yeah. But, I mean, you think, okay, a team Game 7, they're up by 20 at home, like, it's pretty much over. Definitely not the Wolves are going to come back. It feels like they tapped out of that series, to be honest. So I got to go with the Nuggets.
Yeah, I don't know why you put this question on the list, because it's so obvious and
because I wanted to see if you were going to take accountability and say, like, we need it more from Jalen Brunson. He's a superstar. We need him to put the team on his back.
I mean, he was injured.
Hey, because
he was injured in game.
Jokic's been doing it. Doing it. That's why he's a superstar.
Brunson was injured in Game 7. So during the game,
that shit was
in
over
Game
before
7,
he got hurt.
So I mean, that's another thing to add why it wasn't like a collapse. To your point, the only other 2 things I would say is 3-time MVP. You said MVP of the league. 3-time MVP of the league.
I know how many MVPs he got, no matter how much y'all argue that he don't deserve them.
Listen, I'm explaining why it's such a monumental collapse, all right? 3-time MVP on your team, and they won the year before against this Minnesota team 4-1. And you're the defending champ. So you got to win that one. It's easily the Denver Nuggets.
All right. More pressure going forward. Boston Celtics or your Dallas Mavericks?
I think this is another easy answer. It's the Boston Celtics. You've been to the finals before, 2 years ago? All right. Boston is much more of a sports city than Dallas, and that plays a part here. If Boston was Minnesota, no one would be talking about Tatum and Jaylen Brown needing to win one right now. So the fact that Boston is one of those diehard sports towns that are used to winners, the Bruins, the Patriots, the Red Sox, all have titles, it feels like, in the past decade, which I actually think they do, except the Celtics since 2008. So there's more pressure there. And listen, all playoffs, the Celtics have been taking heat for how they play, even in games they win. JT. It's incredible. So the fact that you win, but you're not winning the right way, this is starting to sound like the Brazilian soccer team. They could win 1-0, 2-1, and it's not good enough because you're expected to play at a certain level in a certain style. And the last thing I would say is, let me ask you this. If Dallas loses, is anyone going to say blow it up? Probably not. If the Celtics lose,
because there's nothing to blow up.
If the Celtics,
there's 2 guys.
If the Celtics lose, They're going to say, blow it up. Trade Jaylen Brown.
They said that last year. They say that every year.
Can't win. So that's my point. That's why there's more pressure.
And it has nothing to do with the damn city of Boston. You're right. It is the Celtics.
Absolutely does.
The Celtics.
They are the Lakers of the East. If it was the Phoenix Suns, look at the Phoenix Suns. Ain't nobody talking about them anymore. And they got swept.
Because KD's on that team and we expect that from him. It's the Celtics, and I feel bad for them because they've essentially become the 90s Buffalo Bills. And the reason why they're under so much pressure is they keep getting to the finish line of the race and they just not breaking the tape. Like anything that they do other than win a championship is a failure. I'm sorry. All the regular season dominance they have every year and this year, blowing teams out at home by like 20 plus points, that shit does not matter. Like they need to win a title. And to be honest, if we're looking at their body of work over the last 4 or 5 years, technically this is their best and easiest chance to win a championship. You got a bunch of teams left in this playoff that have no championship or finals experience. Like you guys are the vets in this situation. They should win this. And if they don't, I don't even want to be on that team answering questions and what the media is going to do to them if they don't win. So it's the Celtics. All right, well, let's stay with the Celtics. More pressure going forward. Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown? This is a question every year around this time.
It's Jason Tatum. He is the
You're a guy, Jason Tatum, who you're like, hey, look, he's the best player in the league at one point.
I didn't say the best
player.
Yeah, you did.
League.
He is the face of the organization. There's no doubt. He's the face of the Celtics in this moment. It's his team. Don't be fooled. And I'm not comparing these two guys to the two names I'm about to give, but what I'm comparing them to is their status on the team and how they're viewed. You know, Tatum has that like MJ type status where Brown is more of Pippen, right? He's playing second fiddle to Tatum. So by looking at it that way, I think it's clear that it's Jason Tatum has the pressure going forward.
It has to be Tatum just because the media has been so mean and they've been so hard on Jaylen Brown the past 2 years to the point where nobody expects him to carry a franchise. Like, you're right. Jason Tatum has gotten that pass, and I feel like you just talked about it. If they don't win a championship, I think it's about to expire. Like, the empty 40-point games are cool, but I'm not seeing him play at the level of, like, real superstars. Because I think people think he's a superstar. Like, guys to me like Luka, Shea, LeBron, Giannis, Jokic, like, even to a degree, Ant right now, like, those guys are superstars, and you can see because they raise their level of game and play in the playoffs. Like, to me, what's the difference between Jason Tatum and Devin Booker? To me, that's basically what he is right now in the playoffs. And I don't think we're calling Devin Booker a superstar. But Jason Tatum, maybe you're right, maybe because he plays on the Celtics, we're thinking, okay, he's a superstar because he puts up these big empty stat games every once in a while. But if they don't win this year, it's definitely going to be him. And I know that's why he's under the most pressure.
All right, so let's look at it this way. Which legacy hinges more on these playoffs? Luka, Kyrie, Tatum, or Rudy Gobert?
I actually think it's a good question because a championship would just skyrocket the legacy of any one of these guys. But
of course, as any title.
I don't think it's close, man. It's Luka. Just because he has a chance to by far be the greatest player of all time on this list. Like, just look what he's done. I think he's made 5 All-NBAs in his first 6 seasons. And you add a ring to that, and yeah, we're having a different conversation about Luka. Look at what an MVP in a ring did for the conversation all time around Jokic. Like, Luka's legacy will explode if they win it all, to be honest with you. Like, especially they're a 6th seed. Like, he does that, and it's Boston that they take down. Like, you know, because the city of Boston is the end all be all. Like, there's just no way you can keep him out of those all-time conversations. Like, he's going to have all the accolades. He's going to have a ring. At this point, he's just going to be playing to get MVPs, which I think he'll easily get. That's a regular season award. We know his stats in the regular season. So a ring, I think, just ascends him above anybody on this list. You make legitimate points, and I think obviously it would help Luka and skyrocket him. But I'm going to go Jason Tatum for a lot of the stuff we just said. You know, you mentioned something about Boston. Boston has the easiest path of all the teams in these playoffs to get to the finals. So they've got to at least get to the finals, right? They've got to at least get to the finals. And I didn't look at it, JT,
as far as what a title does for the guy, the way I looked at it is
who needs one the most?
Who needs one the most? Who?
I guess you can look at it.
What a loss in these playoffs without a ring does to your legacy.
So you
because with Luka
as like a legacy saving time. I took it as like which one of these guys is gonna have like their legacy enhanced by this title.
Right.
I think it's Luka just because it'll put him in such a different stratosphere over these guys.
You
won't be able to catch him.
It would, but this would be my argument to that. My counter to that is he's going to get other chances. He always will. Right, it doesn't matter what.
I mean, we say that, and then his ass could end up being Jason Tatum. And we talking about him 2 years from now. I was like, oh, he needs to get it done.
I'm glad
the pressure for Luka will come.
But what I'm saying is, I'm glad you said that because I'm going to get to the point with Tatum. Is that if Luka goes somewhere else and wins, JT, it's fine. He'll be fine. His legacy will be intact. My whole point goes back to the Boston thing. You've been together with Jaylen Brown for 7 years, bro. It's like you said. They're starting to become the Buffalo Bills. No one in this day and age, whether it's the NBA, the NFL, any league. I don't care if you look at European soccer, doesn't matter. To be together with that core, with the duo that they have for 7 years and not win anything, that's unheard of anymore. And why I'm saying it would need to be a legacy saver is if they don't win it this year, I think it's almost guaranteed they're going to have to do something different. Maybe Brad Stevens.
Yeah, they're going to fire their coach.
Maybe Brad Stevens leaves. We don't know. But then that's a domino effect of what's going to happen to Jaylen and Jason Tatum. And this is what I'm saying is if he doesn't win in Boston, his legacy will never be complete because he could go and be second fiddle to KD and Booker.
So basically, if you don't win in Boston and pull a Warriors move KD did, it won't count.
Let me finish. If Tatum goes somewhere else to have to be second fiddle and win and it not be his team, it doesn't matter. Yes, for him, that's great. But the legacy, when you're talking about legacy,
he'll be KD.
He won't even be that because KD is potentially a top 10 player all time. Tatum will never get. Can you just forget those little jabs that you've got to take? Because
I'm serious.
Argument, yes.
I'm not trying to be funny. Like, you really think KD is a top 10 all-time player?
An argument can be made for that.
No, it cannot. He's not even close. You can roll your eyes all you want to.
I'm gonna roll my eyes because that's ridiculous.
You don't even KD is a top 10 all-time player. We're just gonna put him in there.
But the fact is, you don't even think it's a consideration is the problem.
You sound
like the MJ fans think LeBron is not even a top 2 guy.
I'm sorry.
So anyway,
you wrong.
So anyway, back to my point is if he can't do it in Boston, his legacy is done. It doesn't matter if he goes and wins it somewhere else. It won't be his team. You got to do it in Boston. If Kobe couldn't do it in LA and ended up going to Dallas to win, he wouldn't be the Kobe Bryant that we know of as far as the basketball player. It's fact. Right. Same with Tatum.
You got Tatum. All right. That's a long way to get to that answer. All right.
Because you always have to interrupt. You always have to take forever.
Jabs. This show got a time limit. You see that ticker at the top right there?
Damn, we got plenty of time. People like
ask questions.
People like to listen to us.
They do
Relax.
More likely to take a leap into superstardom. So when we say this, we mean like a full-time superstar, not just flashes.
Yeah.
Halliburton, Ant, or Brunson. I think I know where you're going with this one.
Yeah. Well, I think all three can get to that superstar.
And they could.
I definitely think. But more likely, since that's the actual question, I'm going Ant. What do the young kids say? Like, he is him, something like that, I think.
Please don't do that. And you know what? I'm not the only one that would tell you personally, don't do that. I feel like you're by yourself now, so don't do that.
You've texted me that before.
I can do that.
But no, Jerry.
I can hear Jimmy. That's why.
Wow. Jerry West. He said, like, all these guys want to be dogs, right? They think of themselves as dogs. And he's like, when I played, I wanted to be the wolf. I was the wolf. And Ant he's that guy, right? You're going to have all these other guys playing thinking they're the guy, but Anthony Edwards is truly that guy. And he has that attitude about JT. He's doing it in Minnesota. If he was doing exactly what he's doing now in New York for the Knicks and they were in the Eastern Conference Finals, Bro, he would own Madison Avenue.
They would say he's the best Knicks player of all time already.
That, and he'd be the Joe Willie Namath of the city. It would be ridiculous. So it's Anthony Edwards.
I agree. It's Ant. Just because the media hype that's around him. Like, every time I turn on the TV, they're calling him Michael Jordan. I'm like, what? Like, I don't agree with that. But I said this before. I think Ant has a real good chance to be the next Dwayne Wade. I know that doesn't sound sexy, but like, if you told a guy to enter the league, like, hey, you can choose what's in the mystery box, or you could have Dwayne Wade's career, I guarantee those guys are picking Dwayne Wade's career. And I think Ant could be that type of player. But I mean, just the hype around him, like I said, is crazy. Like, even when he doesn't play well, like, they're clamoring for him to be the new face of the NBA. It's like, he's got the personality, and I think he has that plus the game, which I don't think the other two have. Like, I don't think Brunson's personality is really marketable. I haven't seen it. I don't think Halliburton's like that kind of energetic guy like Ant is, where everybody's going to kind of like gravitate toward it. Like, I think Ant is like, imagine if what Westbrook would have been like, how the media would have treated him during his prime if they actually liked him. And I think that's what you can see with Ant. Like, that's a superstar. Like, this guy that's put up these crazy highlight reel numbers. Like, it's exciting. Everybody wants to see him play. But he's also going to make the media laugh their ass off after the game. So that's why I think it's him, because he has both on and off the court.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean,
and he's been in a movie. Like, did you see the movie he was in? Like,
that's
that was hilarious.
Listen, that's a great movie. I must say, great movie. All right. Anything else on that?
No. It's Ant. We both agree.
Yeah, no, I think that's clear. And again, not a knock on Halliburton or Brunson, but Ant is that more likely superstar. So let's go with predictions. All right. We always have fun with this. We like this. Let's go. Who do you got conference winners for the conference finals? And then give me your NBA finals winner. All
right. So I got the Pacers beating the Celtics, because they should have beat them game one. And
I hope that don't come back to haunt the Pacers.
That BS made me stay up way later than I wanted to. And plus, this is what the Pacers have done. Like, they don't foul at the end of the games like the previous series, and it's cost them, and they battle back. So I think they're going to do it. And I'm going with the Mavs. Something about Luka, man, and him and Kyrie, I feel like they both like reinvigorated each other. And it seems like it's time for both of them. So that's why I'm going. And then finals, I'm going to go Mavs in 5.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Dallas. We've both talked about them, and I mentioned they're my team out of the West. I just think it's their time. There's something about them, and they have that depth. PJ Washington, don't sleep on that guy. I've got to go Boston, though. I don't see Indiana being able to win 4 games. I think it's going to be a 6-game series. Should have been 7 after game 1, but I just don't think Indiana can win enough games there, because I also think it sets up Dallas-Boston, which is what, JT? Kyrie going back against his former team.
Nobody cares about that storyline. Yes, that storyline's not even real. Like, that is a real story. Talked about. That's just making shit up.
We're ahead of the curve.
Like, oh my God, Kyrie's coming back to Boston. We want to see this. No, we don't.
We are ahead of the curve. Not even social media.
Don't put us on this group.
It hasn't even garnered. It hasn't even garnered momentum on social media. We're even ahead of social media. That's amazing in this day and age. You're welcome. And then NBA Finals winner, I got to go Dallas. I just don't think Boston. I don't think Boston's going to have.
They ain't going to do it until they show us.
Right. Exactly. They're not going to have enough fortitude to be able to overcome Dallas. So, all right. So let's go over to the WNBA, right? It's been underway. I got to have a little bit of a leeway into this, JT. So Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever are now, I believe, 0-5 with Caitlin Clark. Yep. Caitlin Clark averaging
all 5 of those games.
Caitlin Clark averaging almost 18 points, 4 boards, 5.5 assists per game. Has not been an easy transition, though, for her to the NBA, as she leads the league in turnovers per game. First 4 games, she played the New York Liberty and Connecticut Sun twice each. All right. They were the top 2 teams, all right, in the East last year, and 2 of the better defensive teams in the league. So this led Colin Cowherd to say the WNBA dropped the ball and should have made the schedule easier to start for Caitlin Clark in the Fever. Is he right or wrong?
First of all, why is Coward acting like the WNBA got like 40 teams and they could just hide her and she don't have to play these teams in her own conference? And before we even talk about Caitlin Clark, I just want to say this: like we obviously watched her in college. We've been watching her in the WNBA. Like, she gonna be good. Like, I don't anything I'm about to say. I don't want him to make it seem like I don't think she has a chance to make it in this league. Like, you can see like the talent is there. It's a learning curve, and I think that's the biggest disadvantage that people don't talk about is players that lead their team deep in the conference. I mean, in the March Madness in college, and have to carry the load and then have to turn around 2 weeks later and play in the WNBA. That's got to be the roughest transition in sports that people don't talk about, especially for somebody like her that's a guard, where you carrying everybody, and now you have to go against a completely different beast just 2 weeks later after you played 40 games.
That may be tougher than the NBA guys going from the playoffs to the Olympics.
Oh, it's much tougher. It's much tougher because at the same time, she got to prove herself. So I'm prefacing it by saying, like, I do think she's going to be good. She's shown me enough to show me that she's got it. But back to Colin Cowherd. Yeah, he's wrong. This is so bad. And this just shows that people don't take the WNBA seriously, and I think they think it's a joke. So what are the players supposed to do? Just let her score and be successful? Like, this isn't the WWE. Like, we would never say that about any star prospect coming into any other sport. Like, we ain't say that about Michael Jordan. We didn't say let Mahomes win. We didn't say, oh, Bryce Harper's the best prospect in 20 years. Like, let's just let him, hit all the home runs and let's throw him slow pitch. Like, we always say these guys got to earn it. So, like, I just don't understand where that's coming from. And let's look at this. Like, the WNBA, and nobody was calling for the WNBA to do this for more accomplished players that have come into the league. I didn't hear them ask this for Candace Parker or Breonna Stewart, Maya Moore, or even more recently, Ionescu. Like, nobody asked us to, like, slow pitch these players so they can be successful. Mm-hmm. Like, to be honest, they didn't even do it for Brittany Griner, who, to me, I felt like when she came out of Baylor, she was probably the closest thing. Her game was the closest thing to resembling what I think men who don't watch the WNBA would find entertaining. They didn't say, hey, let's just let Brittany Griner dunk over everybody and, block every shot. They didn't do that. So, like, why is Caitlin different? Like, she didn't accomplish nearly what those players did in college coming into the league. Like, people are really buying into this nonsense that she saved the WNBA, and I think that's where this is coming from. And it's like, has she? Like, she's 0-5. Like, yeah, people are talking about it, but are people, like, watching that many more games? Like, is she really saving the league? Like, I don't think by fixing the schedule for her is gonna, improve anything. Like, they want to see her play, but we also want to see these other players that are good in the WNBA play too. Like, it's fair competition. So I definitely think he was wrong.
Well, I think he was wrong. I kind of understand. I understand what he's saying, though, because he did defend it, too, by saying, look what the NFL did for Jim Harbaugh. They gave the Chargers their easiest 2 games were the first 2 games of the season, right? They put David Beckham, he said, in L.A. They didn't throw him into Kansas City in the middle of nowhere. They gave him the big market so everyone could see him, right? Same thing with Messi. They put him on Miami for a reason. So I see what he's saying, but because New York and Connecticut, again, top 2 teams in the East last year. However, I understand why the WNBA, if they consciously did this, it's because they wanted to draw a big market like New York. The New York Liberty are a good team. They probably have one of the better followings, I would imagine, along with LA because of the market. They wanted to put this on a big time stage. They didn't want to just put them against somebody else that another city may not watch as much as New York, as well as the fan base of the Connecticut, I'd imagine, is similar to the UConn fan base, which is basketball driven, right? They're a basketball type town. So they knew people would watch and wanted to see her versus the best. Like, no one's going to look back in 3 years and be like, boy, they really messed up by putting Caitlin Clark against 2 really good teams. Like,
she's going to have to play him anyway.
Yeah, no one's going to remember
I understand.
that. Right, no one's going to remember that. So they wanted to take advantage of the stage and put her against
put your new hottest prospect against your already established fan bases. Right. It's gold.
Exactly. So that shouldn't take away from the future potential of her. She's not going to be broken in these first 2 games of the year.
It might turn her into a dog. Like,
yeah,
it's going to make her better.
And the other thing is, Indiana, they were picking number 1 last year, JT, for a reason. Like we always say,
and they had the number 1 pick the season before.
Exactly. They're not a very good team. Like it didn't matter. Like you said, it didn't matter who they were going to go against. It was going to be tough. Like, so it was going to be, it would have been like this versus anybody, right? It was going to be tough for her and the team versus anybody. I don't agree. I don't agree with
it. It's like, hey, it's going to be an adjustment. Like, we're just not going to lay down and let her come in and do her thing. Like, we got to compete and win jobs too. We got to win games. We got to support our families. This is what they were talking about, not hating on her.
Yeah, I don't agree with Colin Cowherd, but at the same time, I think it was not a good look by them on what they were saying either, right? Like how many NBA guys would have said, nah, Wembanyama, he can't come over and play with us. No one was saying that, JT. No one was saying, oh, it's going to be a tough adjustment for Wembanyama. So you've got to also
know it was like, hey, let's let Wemby play the Charlotte Hornets the first 5 games. The schedule is the schedule.
Right.
You got to play
superstars
at some point.
No, what I'm saying is I agree with you. I think Colin Cowherd, what he said was incorrect. I didn't think that he didn't need to go down that route. But at the same time, I'm not going to agree with what some of the other WNBA players were saying about Caitlin Clark, because some NFL guys, they're not going to say that about Caleb Williams. So why did they
ask those questions though? I feel like they wouldn't get asked those questions. They wouldn't, because if Caleb Williams is a generational,
but the question's the question. The question was the question.
No, he wouldn't, because no reporter is going to ask Caleb Williams like, "Hey man, you're saving the NFL, man. You think you're better than these guys? Nobody's going to say that."
I may be wrong.
The point is, the reason why Cowherd said this, and I said this at the beginning, is people, either they don't respect the talent or they don't know how much talent's really in the WNBA. So they think it's a bunch of girls that they're okay at basketball, and Caitlin Clark looks better than anything I've seen, so she should go in there and dominate. They got studs in that league.
Right. We know that about the WNBA, and we agree with each other that Colin Cowherd was wrong. But you were kind of defending Breanna Stewart and some other players and what they said, and I may be wrong, but I don't think anyone asked them a direct question. I think it was on their own show, on their own telecast.
They were asked direct questions, man.
I think one of those comments was on the telecast as they were watching the title game on their own on television. I don't think anyone asked them. But anyway, is Caitlin Clark, talking about being the savior, is she the savior of the WNBA?
No. And to me, I think the real savior of the WNBA, and people don't want to admit it, it's women's college basketball. That's what's driving this. And look at the great storylines over the last, let's say 6 to 8 years. And I think that's what's really going to grow the popularity. We want to see the rivalries. We want to see these players that we were so engaged with in college go to the pros and see what they're going to do. And the viewership numbers prove that. Look at the college basketball games for the women that were breaking all these records. That is truly what's driving it. Angel Reese is the villain, Cordoza is a champion, Caitlin Clark is this phenomenal scorer, the beefs, the drama, etc. I think that's what's saving the game. Every time Caitlin Clark gets her ass busted a game, that's all I see on social media. Players playing. We want to. This is what we love about men's sports. Now they're doing it in the WNBA, or it's being broadcast more. And to be honest, I feel like most Caitlin Clark fans, I don't even think they're sports fans, because they're not watching these games. I can guarantee you that just by what I see them say. And I think that these other players coming in that we're not talking about, like the Brinks, the Reeses and stuff like that. And I think, Aja Wilson, all these other players that have come in over the last 6, 8 years, I think that's what's been the savior. Putting talent in a league and us following them from college.
So you are right. Obviously, it's a very talented league, and that is helping the league. Right? That is helping the league. But she is going to have to be the savior because they're putting so much on her. The media is putting so much on her. Fans in general are putting so much on her. So even though you may not want it this way, the fact is she's going to have to be, right? Because, and listen, I hope she brings more people to the table and sheds light on the many great players, as you've mentioned, right? We know that. We've seen it. We've seen them come from college to the pros. So we know it's there. And those people, the players before, have definitely helped the league. But, JT, let's not get it mixed up. For the league to keep growing and to explode, she has to be the savior. To me, the reason being is that there's always been an Asia Wilson out there. There's always been a Candace Parker. We've seen them, right? The Lisa Leslies that have started the league to continue the league. But if it's going to get to that next level, she's got to be the one that plays at such a high level and brings fans that normally would not come watch. That's the only reason why I say it. I'm not saying the league can't survive, but in terms of the savior to that next level, she got to be the MJ. Right? When we talk about, think about JT. I compare this. Hold on. And then you can go. Sorry. I compared this to the 80s of the NBA. There was a lot of talent going into the 80s. The Dr. J's, the Moses Malones, right? But Magic, Bird, and then Jordan, they're the ones that truly saved it. You know, like there were great players around. Calvin Sampson of Houston, Elijah Wan came on. There were great players, but it was Bird, Magic, and then Jordan that truly saved it. And that's where I compare this to is she's got to be able to take the league to that next level. And I think she can do it. And I think what will help her is all those other players you've mentioned, right? Because people are going to see how great some of those other players are when they haven't maybe seen them play yet.
I think we answered this question two different ways, and I appreciate your perspective, but I'm gonna add another answer into this from the way that I looked at it. When I said like women's college basketball is the real savior, let's also be real too. Like the savior of the WNBA is the media, like because the media will choose who they want to cover. Like let's be honest. Like let's say if Caitlin Clark did everything she did, she had the same career at Iowa, but I didn't see her on every commercial. Or, you know, they didn't talk about her as much. Like, they chose not to. Like, she still had this great career. Because we've seen this happen with other players. Like, they have way better careers, and the media just chooses not to cover them. They didn't even cover the team that won the championship and didn't lose a game. Like, that's not on, like, oh, fans don't want to watch. That's on the media not highlighting that stuff. And I feel like the media they're also a savior of the WNBA. Because they're like, you know what? Hey, like, we're choosing to throw our hat in the ring. We're going to cover this player. We're going to put it on the front cover of everything. And they're choosing to do that. And I feel like that also saves too. But it's like, Caitlin Clark don't have to be the face of the WNBA because they could have did this with anybody. Like, to be honest with you, they could have did this with Candace Parker because to me, I feel like she was the first in my lifetime, the first women's college basketball player where like guys, men who love basketball were talking about her like she was one of the guys. Like they were impressed with her. She was so talented. And like the media chose not to build anything around her. Like, and maybe they learned their lesson. They want to do it with Caitlin Clark. Like, it's who they choose to cover as well.
That's my whole point. Is they're picking Caitlin Clark to be that person.
Yeah, but I want you to understand by them picking Caitlin Clark, it really doesn't have much to do with her. Like, she's a very talented player.
Well,
it doesn't. You choosing.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
You're making her a cross brand star by placing her everywhere.
Right. And that's why
like if they threw our show on ESPN, yes, we're going to be stars too. Like, does that mean we're better or worse than the people that are already on there?
But maybe JT, not. But to the podcast world, we would be the saviors, right? Because if
anybody's relying on you to be a savior,
if we falter, JT, if we falter on ESPN, no other podcast that's like us, a smaller podcast, will ever get another shot. If we're on fire and we blow up, everyone's going to be looking for that next small podcast. But you know what they'll do? They'll do what Colin Cowherd said. They'll stack the decks for us. They'll put us on the shittiest time slot. We'll be debating against nobodies. But like to me, I'm sticking with my answer. Women's college basketball and the media choosing to actually highlight a women's superstar is what's saving the league. All right, so there's a lot of excitement with this year's WNBA rookie class. So who has been more impressive so far? Caitlin Clark Angel Reese or Cameron Brink?
This is a really good question because all three of these girls have been really good, man. I'm going to go with Angel Reese just simply because out of these three, she was the one that people were really concerned and had the biggest question marks of whether or not her game could translate to the WNBA. Like, they really thought it was going to be an issue, and she's averaging 11 points, 8 boards, and a block per game. Like, I've been impressed with her. Like, I had those questions myself. I'm like, can she do what she did at LSU against this WNBA talent? And so far, I think she's been fine.
Yeah, I agree with your answer. I think it's Angel Reese has been the most impressive. I thought the same. I thought she would take a little bit longer to adjust to the WNBA game because, like we've been saying,
we talked about that 2 years ago. We were like, oh, can she do this?
Because we've said there's a lot of good WNBA players, a lot of good low post players. It's not going to be that easy the way it is sometimes in college. But I think she's done a really good job so far. She's got to watch the fouls. She gets into a lot of foul trouble. But she went, opening game, 12 and 8, 12 points, 8 boards, then 11 points, 9 boards. She's playing mid-20s in the minutes. So it's not like, a whole lot of minutes. Her team is 1-1. I don't know if they played last night. But in that second game they won, she was a plus 17 on the plus minus when she was on the court. I mean, that's amazing to have that sort of plus, be plus 17
as a rookie.
Team.
Like,
right.
It's very impressive.
So,
I think she's showing us that, like, what she did at LSU, like, it's translatable.
It can't. Yeah,
that means the upside is there.
Yeah, she can possibly do it in the NBA. And listen, Caitlin Clark, we've talked about the averages. She's doing a heck of a job, even though some people think she's struggling. Like, she's only 5 games.
They're not winning games,
right.
And she's figuring it out.
Yeah, she's 5 games in. Like, relax. And then Cameron Brink, yes, she's not scoring a lot, but she's blocking shots. She's blocking shots, and I think she kind of had a game clinching block in their last game to where she sealed the deal. So they've all been impressive, but I think definitely Angel Reese, because of some of that doubt we may have had, she's proving us wrong, which is good.
All right, so let's sneak some NFL in here. Reports are talks of extensions are underway for both Trevor Lawrence and Tua with their respective teams. Now that they're eligible for an extension, talks are that the yearly average, let me read this correctly, the yearly average amount could be $50 billion for each player. Whew, those prices are getting expensive. All right, with that being said, who's more deserving of an extension? Lawrence, your guy, or Tua?
Well, I've always defended Tua, so I don't want this to feel like I'm knocking Tua.
But to knock him.
But it is Trevor, right? I have him on my dynasty fantasy team, so it better be him.
You can't do this, bro. You can't come on this show and give bad information just so the positive karma will be out there for your fantasy team. If they suck, they suck.
I have legit.
You just gotta live with that.
I have legit reasons.
Get traded for one first round pick.
In all honesty,
stop trying to price gouge.
In all honesty, I still think of him. Like, when you think of him, Jordan Love, Dak, and Tua, right? They're all going to be eligible here for an extension. I think of those 4, he can be that next great superstar, with Jordan Love close behind. But he's almost averaged 4,000 yards a year. I think he's more athletic than Tua. He's got a stronger arm than Tua. And when you think about what he's done, we always look at, well, what have you done? Well, he had the 3rd largest comeback in NFL playoff history when he brought them back against the Chargers. And I think he has that respect in the locker room. Like, sometimes I think because of the way the media and fans like you, JT, treat Tua, I think that bleeds.
No, it's my fault. He doesn't deserve an
extension. It is clearly your fault. Okay. Everything is your fault.
Glad we got that out the way.
Everything is your fault. I think it bleeds into the locker room sometimes, whereas in Jacksonville, everyone knows that's Trevor's locker room, right? We don't need to question, is it Tyreek Hill's locker room? Is it Jalen's or is it Tua's? It's Trevor's in Jacksonville. And listen, the fact that he got through the Urban Meyer year and he's still producing in the NFL, like, I think, and Trevor's a year and a half younger than Tua. I think he at this point has earned that extension, or I should say more deserving. They both earned it, but I think he's a little bit more deserving of that extension.
This is an easy question. I'm going with the guy that was first in passing yards in NFL last year, first in accuracy, second in yards per attempt, and 5th in passing touchdowns. That would be Tua. He's earned it. That's it.
All right. You're wrong again, but I like how you kept it short.
Enjoy midlife with Trevor Lawrence.
Listen, when he blows up, you're going to be like, you never said he was going to be good.
This shit about
you heard
Trevor
it right
Lawrence
here.
is the most annoying conversation. Like he is borderline Tebow levels. It's like, wow. Like the standard for mediocrity. If this was anybody else, like we'd be like, oh no, you don't deserve it. Like they would find ways to say like, oh, he's not a franchise quarterback. What has this dude done? He's thrown for 25 touchdowns in the season one time. He threw 13 touchdowns in 1 year. The dude was number 1 overall pick. He's supposed to be a generational prospect. It ain't like, oh, it's Dak Prescott where he's a 3rd or Russell Wilson, like a late round pick. Like this guy was the number 1 overall pick. Like people were tanking for him. Like we expect him to at least be a perennial Pro Bowler that's in the AFC Championship game. Like it was supposed to be him and Mahomes are dueling by now, and it's not true. Like he's not even the best quarterback in his conference. He's doing how does he earn this? He's
doing it in Jacksonville after.
He's doing that shit on your dynasty team, and every touchdown he throws is worth so much to you.
After his rookie year, which he didn't have a real rookie year.
Can we get over that though? Okay, no, a lot of quarterbacks go into shitty situations. Josh Rosen went first round and he didn't even make it to his second year.
JT, he's out of the league. That should tell you how good Trevor Lawrence is.
Oh my God.
Let it go.
We give Trevor Lawrence the longest leash on the planet.
You're such a hater.
I'm not a hater. I'm being real.
Why do you hate? Real.
If this were any other quarterback,
you always say that. If
this were any other quarterback, who's had a better career so far? Right, Dak Prescott or Trevor Lawrence?
So forget about
Dak Prescott or Trevor Lawrence. I know you hear Jimmy. So Trevor Lawrence or Dak Prescott?
I don't hear JT.
Exactly.
Or Jimmy.
That's exactly why.
Forget about it or Fugazi. We're going to give you a statement, and then we'll let you know if we think it's a hot take. If it's a good take, we'll say forget about it. If it's not, we'll say Fugazi. All right?
Dak is shit, but Trevor Lawrence deserves $50 million. Like, listen how crazy that sounds. Dak had to fight for his money. Trevor Lawrence, we just going to hand him $50 million for 25 touchdowns.
Hold on, JT. Did I ever say Dak was terrible? I've always said he should get paid. He still should get paid in Dallas. He still should get paid. If they let him go, huge mistake. They made a mistake before. They signed Zeke. They signed Jalen Smith. They signed all those other guys. They forgot about their quarterback. And look what happened, right? They're doing the same thing again. They're going to mess that situation up also.
You just want him to get paid, so he'll be relevant on your team.
And the other thing is, Trevor's like 7 years younger than him. I mean, let's be realistic too. Like Trevor still has a lot of growing.
I'm talking about their career arcs. Like obviously, I'm talking about when Dak was up
3 years in.
When he was up for his extension. Everybody was like, "Oh, he sucks. You don't deserve it."
What did I say? Pay the guy. You should have paid him first. I don't know why he got paid last. All right. So first statement: LeBron James will not be a Laker next season.
Oh, Fugazi. Because the Lakers will give him whatever he wants. They'll give him the coach he wants, the roster, and they'll even draft his son if he wants it. Like, he ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, it's Fugazi. He's going to be with LA. LA needs him. And JT, you know what I suggest? LeBron James, LA, Lakers organization, make him player coach. Make him player coach. Make him the head coach.
Nah, they can't do that. Nobody will want to go to the Lakers if he comes out as the real player coach. I ain't playing for him.
Wow.
Because he's just going to hire all his buddies and we ain't going to do shit.
He's not the GM. He's the coach.
Call it what you want. All right. Next one. Jason Tatum is not a superstar. Forget about it or Fugazi.
Whew.
Yeah, come on over to this side.
I'm going to say Fugazi still. They're still in it. They're still in the playoffs. And listen, the dude can ball. And I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what superstar means anymore. Like,
because we're using that term so loosely.
No, maybe a little bit, but I think Jason Tatum still is a superstar.
I think there's an expiration date.
He just got to win.
There's an expiration date on like the superstar like grace period, and if you ain't done X, Y, and Z by that time, I'm kicking you out. And that's why it's forget about it, man. Like he's in that Devin Booker, Damian Lillard tier now for me. Like that's not top 7.
No, see, that's where I disagree a little bit because I think Devin Booker is not the man on the team anymore. whereas Tatum is still the man, and he's still only 26 or 27. So
he's not a superstar to me.
Well, I disagree, but we've always disagreed on superstars. So anyway, speaking of NBA players could play in the NFL.
Oh, Fugazi, and definitely not Austin Rivers. I don't know why he's getting the pass to go on all these media outlets and talk about like who can and cannot play in the league. Like you couldn't play either anyway. But I would say like the NFL is too physical for those guys. That's the obvious, and that's why most of them went to play basketball. It's not because they're like, oh yeah, we're so skilled, we're just gonna go play basketball. No, every basketball player got that same story. They went out to practice, they got the shit knocked out of them. They're like, you know what? I'm going out for basketball, and they happen to have a growth spurt. To be honest, there's only one guy that I can think of that played in the NBA that I'm like, you know what? I think they could play in the NFL, but unfortunately, he's about to go to prison. Big Baby Davis, man. Like, what is he? 6'8", like 330 pounds, athletic, big, quick. And you forget, Big Baby was what, a 5-star offensive tackle coming out of high school. So I think somebody like him could play, but most of these guys, they cannot play in the NFL. Those shots.
Oh, that was quite a knock at basketball players. I disagree with your take on the basketball players, man. Listen, we've seen it happen. Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, those were basketball guys that, especially Gates, that came over to football. Listen,
but no, I want to let you ask this question.
If you're making a general statement, it's hard to make any sort of general statement. I had a feeling you were
going to go there. When I think of Antonio Gates or
he was basketball first,
or Tony Gonzalez,
Gates never played football.
I'm thinking about, but he didn't play. But I think about those are football type guys that are just they got to stay and play in basketball longer than they should have.
Hey, let me ask you this: who would win in a fight, Frank Gore or Darren Williams? Well, Darren Williams wiped the floor.
We're really using that whack ass quote. First of all, did you even watch that fight? Because Darren Williams, he was cheating his ass off. He literally bear hugged Frank Gore and threw him out of the ring. That was a terrible fucking quote.
You got to do what you got to do sometimes.
Realistic. If you took the best athletes from the NBA, I do not think they could play in the NFL. They just can't.
But the other thing too is they haven't been trained to do that either. If you give them a year,
train them. Give them 1 year of training. Who do you think could play in the NFL? Give me two guys. A year of training and a clean bill of health. Give me two guys.
I mean, you probably could go.
I'm not talking about like, we signed them as like an honorary player. Like you think they can go into camp and take somebody's job?
Yeah,
give me two players.
Zion Williamson for sure, and I would even say Paolo Banchero.
Out of all the players in the league,
who else are you going to name? Those are two of the most physical guys. Man.
All right, next. Fewest NBA points per game in the playoffs currently since 2018. Does this mean defense is finally back in the NBA?
Hey,
forget about it for Fugazi.
Hey, you didn't think I could answer that question as fast as I did.
You're
That's
right.
why
you
can't. Surprised.
Terrible.
You surprised. This is Fugazi. Because it's always like this in the NBA playoffs. Right? It's the regular season that people have an issue with on defense. And to be honest, hey, listen, this is not a knock. Guys play hard. Even in the regular season, players are incredibly skilled offensively that scoring is bound to happen. And in the regular season, yes, maybe the defense is a little bit, lax, like less intense, but it's not to say they're not trying. And come the playoffs, you do clamp down a little bit. And the other part too is, JT, in the playoffs, guess what? Guys know everyone's watching. They're usually the only game on in the whole world. You can't give that
half-ass effort.
but also offensively, people get tight. It's like superstar baseball players. All of a sudden, they hit 60 homers in a year, and they bat 150 in the playoffs. It's a small sample size. Players get tight offensively. And like you said, everyone watches you defensively. You can't take the night off. So I don't know if it's fine. I don't know if it's finally back, but we've seen this before, and I have no issue with it. Listen, I want games to be exciting. I'm defensive minded, but I still want games to be exciting. So this is all good either way.
Fugazi, man, because this is nothing more than the NBA trying to convince us that the game is not like the All-Star game, where it's like they just out there throwing alley-oops and everybody just get the hell out of the way. Because that's basically what the regular season is like to an extent. I think this says more about the refs. I think the refs are just calling the games, that gearing it toward making it seem like they're playing better defense. And I think that's what's going on.
You're saying less whistles, less fouls, letting them go with a little bit more contact.
Exactly.
I think that's a fair point. That's a fair point too. I think that is a fair point.
I think after watching the Donaghy documentary, I don't trust anything the NBA try to throw at us. Everything is scripted probably, but yeah, I don't think it means defense is back. Like, I don't think all of a sudden, this playoffs, like, guys just remember how to play defense. No, like, they always could do this, but it also goes as far as like the rest will allow the game to go. So I think that's what's going on.
All right, good stuff. We both agree there. Two different viewpoints. To the fans and listeners out there, thank you for listening, and remember to please subscribe to us. We can be found on all of the major platforms and wherever you find all of your other favorite podcasts. And remember, if you like what we do, leave us a 5-star review. And JT,
if you don't like what we do,
leave us a 5-star review. And remember, JT and the Don All Sports Podcast presented by Give Us a Shot Network. You can also find us on social media. Please follow us. Our handle at JT and the Don. We can be found on Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. So, JT, a lot of fun, covered a lot of stuff. Good show, man. And until the next episode, see ya.
Peace.